Hi, and welcome to Honey Should We Homeschool?
We're your hosts, Leah,
And Tom.
the proud parents of a little boy and a baby girl, and we're currently asking the question, honey, should we homeschool?
We're inviting you to join us on an exploration into education with the ultimate goal of figuring out what is right for our children.
We'll be interviewing people who currently work in the schooling system, home educators, and students of both paths, as well as doing research into some of the hot topics such as socialisation, bullying, higher education, and exams.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can find us on Instagram at Honey Should We Homeschool.
Thanks for being here.
Hello and welcome back to Honey Should We Homeschool. Today we're going to be joined by a guest, Davo, who was homeschooled in New Zealand but currently resides in the UK. I'm going to have to apologise early on. You probably won't hear much of me for a bit as we had a few technical difficulties and I was running around trying to fix them while we were recording the episode. But hopefully this will work smoothly. So welcome, Davo.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to having a chat.
Oh, us too. I'm very excited. I love hearing about people's experiences if they've been homeschooled. So, first question. Have you ever been to school?
Only occasionally when I was doing exams as a teenager. So when I did NCEA, which is our equivalent of A levels, I think. And so I had external exams for that, so I went in and did them in a local high school. But apart from that, was homeschooled all the way through.
Did you have to? Was that easy enough to do them? Because here it's very hard to get into a school to do them.
Yeah, I think so, because I was studying by a correspondence school at the time. So I guess in that way I was kind of plugged into the system, but still studying at home. And I think they kind of organised it for me and got in touch with the school. So from my point of view, it was easy enough. I just had to show up and do the exam.
Did your parents ever tell you why they chose to homeschool?
Not too much. So they kind of just said that they made a decision that they could homeschool us just as well as the school could. And so we just kind of went along with it. So I've got two older sisters who are 3.5 and 6 years older than me. So they were already kind of going down the homeschool route when I showed up. So I don't think at that age I really got much of a say in it. It just kind of happened and I just went along with it.
So, what did a typical day, week, month, year look like? I know sometimes it's really hard. If somebody asked me what a week looks like, it looks very different week to week. Was there any kind of routine?
Yeah, there was a fairly, I wouldn't say structured routine, but I think we did kind of fall into patterns in some ways. Day by day, we'd usually kind of be up and about and then probably have a few chores and things to get on with, have breakfast. When I was a bit older, we were living on a bit of a farm, so we was always kind of getting up and moving the cows or feeding the sheep or getting some firewood and stuff like that. And then we'd probably start school around about 9 o'clock-ish. And then we'd do that through till about 1 o'clock. And by then we'd usually have kind of filled in what we wanted to get done for the day. So we kind of usually do it in one big block rather than having lunch and getting back to it. We might do a little bit more in the afternoon if we had to, or sometimes if it was a topic that Dad was really good at teaching us on, like math, then we might do a little bit in the evenings. So that's kind of generally how it would go day by day. And then holidays and term time, we'd kind of follow the school terms, not too structured, but we'd have a holiday during the school summer holidays and things like that. Just because it was easier to.
Sorry, when you say holiday, do you mean a break from doing like the learning?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So we always used to be like, well, if everyone else is getting 2 weeks off school, then surely we should get 2 weeks off school. So that's usually how it went.
So you did more of a homeschooling rather than a home education approach, I guess, in that you did uh, like the schooling bit in the morning. So was that a typical kind of sit down and do some English, do some maths, do
Yeah. So we'd have different curriculum or different books that we'd follow, depending on what level we were doing or how old we were at the time. Mum used to look for resources from all over the place. So some of it was New Zealand based, some of it was US based, and yeah, we'd just kind of follow through that. So sometimes that would be mum teaching us when we were younger. She would kind of walk us through it. Then when I was a bit older, maybe kind of 13, 14, 15, she would kind of give me the book and say, all right, I want you to do from this page through to this page, or this week you're doing chapter 15 or whatever. And I'd kind of go and do it. And then she would give me a test at the end to see how I was doing. So it was a bit more self-directed, depending on the subject.
That's very interesting. So you still got tested?
Yeah, just to make sure I was kind of doing what I was supposed to be doing and learning what I was supposed to be
Yeah.
learning.
And your dad actually did some of the teaching too?
Yeah. Mum and dad have kind of slightly different backgrounds in that mum studied science, I think it was biochemistry at university, and then dad's an engineer. So mum was really obviously into the sciencey side of things. Dad was really good with the engineering and the mathematics and things like that. So sometimes there'd be different things that they'd try and teach us, or even if they're just to kind of share the load around a bit and help out each other, then they both get involved in the teaching.
That's really interesting. So you said that you kind of followed the curriculum. Did you do all of the subjects, like history and geography and art and all of it?
Yeah. So we did. I think we've got quite a well-rounded education in that. I think we did kind of tend to cover all the subjects. Mum and Dad also used to take us out to a lot of museums or things like that. So that was always a bit of a day out, but also very much an educational day at the same time, trying to learn about history or things like that. So we did get quite a well-rounded education, I would say.
Did you ever have any outside tutors or lessons?
Yeah, so when I was doing the NCA, so the A-level equivalent, had to do English because I wanted to get into journalism. And for that, because there were certain requirements around that, there was another homeschool mum who was also an English teacher. So she used to do kind of one-to-one lessons or private lessons. So me and my sister would go along and she would teach us those. So that was really helpful, kind of getting ready for those exams, because sometimes there's a bit of a more structured way to approach these, or they kind of want you to be looking at it in a certain way. So she was really good at teaching us about that.
Just to go off my questions as I always do,
That's right.
when did you know that you wanted to do journalism and how did you get to that point?
I think I was probably around about 14, 15, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'd always had an interest in the news. So I was always listening to the radio, RNZ, which is our equivalent of the BBC out in New Zealand. So I was always listening to that, always reading the newspaper. I think there's a general election when I was probably about 10, and I made a scrapbook about it just because I was interested in it, which probably most 10-year-olds aren't doing at that age. But yeah, so I was always quite fascinated by it. And then my grandmother was a journalist as well, so I think that probably had a bit of an impact too, of kind of just being aware of it as a career option and knowing what it involved. And then, yeah, just decided that that was my career path and then followed on from there.
Cool. So did your grandmother help you at all with any of your learning?
No, they lived a little way away, so kind of see them every now and again, but I think it's just more that familiarity with it and knowing that it's an option.
Yeah. It's really funny because so many jobs, like Tom's job is I don't even know, what are we calling your job?
I'm a program manager, effectively.
Like as a kid, you wouldn't, I mean, as an adult, I don't know what that is. So as a kid, you wouldn't know that you could ever be a program.
No, that's not fair. Like when I was 5 years old and I was really fascinated by animals and sharks and the sea, all I wanted to do was be a program manager. Absolutely. In fact, I'm technically for a long time I was a scrum master at work, which sounds like something to do with sport. And so if I ever told anybody that, I would have to explain it to them in great detail what I do. And I gave up. I gave up saying this is what I do. And even, looking for a job at the moment, I'm a delivery lead. If I type that into a job site, I mostly get hits from DPD and Parcel Force. And it's not even vaguely what I do. So, yeah, I definitely had that ambition as a kid. I want a job that takes a really long time to explain to anybody what it is. Thanks for pointing that out, Annie.
You're welcome. Do you want to ask the next question?
I haven't got them yet. I've only just rejoined. It seems to be working okay.
We're all full of technical problems this evening.
Yeah. So no, you go ahead.
Okay. Were there any subjects you think were harder to learn at home than you think it may have been to learn in a school setting?
I couldn't actually think of any. I think in some ways, yeah, I think because I didn't really have anything to compare it to, I don't really know whether it would have been easier or harder to learn it in school. You just kind of get on with what you know and what's in front of you. And for most of the time, it seemed to work pretty well. What we had, yeah, it really did try and cover all the different subjects. And Mum and Dad put a lot of effort into trying to find all the different resources, but we just kind of got on with what we had.
I suppose when I think about that question, I think very specifically of our chemistry lab at school, because you had Bunsen burners and lots of different things like that. And I think with our kids that it might be hard to to provide that kind of stuff. It might just have like a lighter and
I don't know. You can make a lot of stuff with a box of matches and like a lighter and.
Oh, we definitely made explosions. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We did once accidentally make we blew up some hydrogen once. That was quite fun. So you can definitely make these science experiments. It's just maybe a little bit more ad hoc.
Where did you get the hydrogen from?
Oh, electrodes in water and then a thumb over the top to build the pressure and then a match. Turns out it makes a pretty good explosion.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So next question we have for you in this space is, and I think you've answered this earlier, but did you do exams? And actually, probably more the mechanics of doing exams when you are homeschooled. How did that work?
Yeah, so I did have a few exams. So as part of NCEA, I had to get a certain number of credits that were external. So you had to go and set them in a proper exam environment. Um, and so for that, I had to go into the local high school, which is just down the road. And so I think I had to book into it or something and say, okay, I'm going to be sitting these exams at this school. Do you have space for me? Go through all of that, and they came back and through and said, yeah, that's fine. Um, so in the end, it was a case of kind of turning up and lining up with all the other students. Always stood out a bit because they were all in school uniform and I'm there in just my normal clothes. So, and then yeah, so just kind of go in, sit there, do the exam, and then I was off again. And so I'd kind of done all the prep and done all the study beforehand, but just at home, but through kind of the correspondence school. So New Zealand's got a pretty well set up correspondence school because a lot of the country is so remote. There's quite a few students who just can't um, get into school even if they wanted to. So they're pretty well used to doing everything via correspondence. They used to post us out the booklets. We'd kind of go through it, and then back then you kind of have a phone call or email. You'd have set teachers, but they would be based in Wellington, so you kind of have a call with them if you got stuck or if you needed help, and then you'd send it off to them and they'd mark it. And that was kind of the same system with the external exams. They kind of send you all the work, you do all the prep, and then you go in and sit it, and then wait to get your results back, along with everybody else.
That's pretty cool. I think I was quite fascinated by it because when you're at school, the teachers they don't say these are the subjects that are coming up in this year's exam, but they do give you an idea, and they're like, "Oh, it'll be one of these 5 things." So the teacher will then send you away, and you study 3 of those, gambling on the fact that 3 of those will come up and the 2 don't. Or some people probably do all 5, but I didn't. Um, and I was like, "Wait, so if you're homeschooling, I guess you can have." Is that the course material is available for that particular exam for the exam board?
Yeah, yeah. So you'd be kind of, I think you were working off the same material as what people are working off in school or at high school, you're just doing it at home, and you would get the same kind of. They'd send out the previous year's exams or that same thing of like, here's the potential topics that you could be looking at, so you would get that same level of prep going into it.
Cool. And were you fairly self-directed by that point, or would your parents really step in and try and help with it?
I think by that point I was pretty self-directed. They're kind of on hand if I had a question or if I needed a hand, but otherwise I just kind of get my head down and get on with it.
That's amazing. So, and that was from what age did you do your exams?
What was it?
First,
I would have been 15, 16, around about that.
I can imagine if I'd been at home at that point, but probably because I was at school and I had no real interest in it. But if somebody had said to me, "Oh, you need to study for your exams, you're at home," I might have just been like, hmm.
Nope.
But that's very probably because at school all they've said was, "You must study for this exam. You must," and it was harder to be motivated.
Self motivated to do it.
I might also be looking back with rose-tinted glasses and thinking, "Oh, I was such a model student," when my parents might have been looking back and going, "Oh, he's such a nightmare at that point." I don't know.
Well, what 15 and 16-year-old isn't a nightmare?
That's true.
How did you find it going into the school setting to do the exams?
I think it felt a little bit strange just because it's an unfamiliar environment. Um, and when you're going into it, you have the pressure of the exams in your mind. So, but then also I did know people there. I had mates at school, so I just try and find them and hang out with them, and yeah, do that to try and pass the time before the exam started.
Well, as you're talking about mates, we'll just readjust my question schedule and talk about the socialization aspect.
Mm.
So, go socialization.
You'll be well versed in this, I would have thought, as a homeschool
It,
student.
it is one of the topics that does come up quite a bit, and I think my view on it has probably slightly changed over the years. I think when I was a teenager or when I was a kid, I was kind of like, yeah, like I think we get out of quite a bit and we see quite a few people, and kind of we've always got opportunities to see other people. And also had 7 siblings, so it was never really quiet at home. So everyone kind of
7.
goes, yeah, it was pretty wild. Mum and Dad certainly had their hands full trying to keep us all in line. Um, and like it was brilliant in many ways. I really enjoyed it, but at the same time, I think there are probably bits you miss out on as well. I think if you're at school when you're with people all the time, there's a lot more contact time with other people. There's a lot more situations where you're just hanging out with people. You're in different friendship groups, all those different things, and I think you do sometimes miss out on that as well. I think I've kind of looking back, I've gone. I think there were probably situations that you can't quite recreate if you're in a kind of a home education setting or a homeschool setting. So I think, I think my view on it has changed a little bit over the years.
How often did you get out and do social stuff like during the week?
It changed over the years. So when I was up until when I was 13, we lived up in the far north of New Zealand, which is pretty remote. We're probably about half an hour from the nearest town. So then it would be kind of, we could maybe go a week or maybe a couple of weeks without going into town, or kind of would go and see a bunch of other homeschool families for a home church and once a month kind of thing. So that was not very often at that point. And then when I was 13, we moved down to Taranaki, which we were about 10 minutes away from town down there. And then we started getting a bit more involved in like football and swimming and youth group and things like that. So then we were going out. I think eventually we ended up we'd have something on every day of the week kind of thing. So it really varied depending on how available everything was.
How did that work with 8 of you, making sure all of you were getting to do the things that you wanted?
Well, it's almost a whole football team, right?
We did have a football pitch on our backyard. We turned one of the fields into a football pitch, complete with goals and everything. So we did almost have the full team. But
Oh
it
yeah,
was
get mum and dad involved, and there you go, 5-a-side.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was basically our either like New Year's Day would be a big family game of football, which was always a bit of fun. But yeah, trying to get everyone all around was a bit of a logistical nightmare sometimes. It kind of got a little bit easier when some of us older ones grew up a bit and had our own cars and own licenses. But it'd be like, if you're going into town, can you pick up this guy, this person, because they need to go here, and then you can pick up this person, and they're coming home with you, and then all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of running around.
So you become a bit like a nanny.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
On call taxi, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
So when you moved down to was it Taranaki, you said?
yeah.
Yeah. When you moved down to, was the socialization opportunity a lot more? It sounded like it was a lot more then because you had different things every day of the week.
Yeah.
And so did you, when you look back on that, was that more, did that give you some of those opportunities that you felt like you missed out on previously?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you did. It was kind of, it did open some of those doors a bit. And then there was also like a homeschool group in Taranaki that we got involved with as well. They'd run different events. I think the tricky thing is that kind of by that point I was 13, 14, so you kind of, the friends I was trying to, or the friendship groups I was trying to get to know, they'd all been friends since they were kind of 5 or 6 kind of thing. So they've got a few more years of knowing each other. And in some ways that's normal for people who move halfway across the country. Is you're trying to get to know people, and trying to get to make friends and all that, and that's quite a normal experience. But I think there's just some of those kind of little life skills that it's a little bit harder to try and develop those, that a little bit older on, and you're kind of doing it for the first time rather than doing it for the second or third time, which I don't know, might have been different, might not have been if I'd been to school. It's kind of hard to say.
And when you say life skills, do you mind elaborating a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's those little skills you develop when you're hanging out with people, like how to make friends and how to kind of navigate your way through a friendship group or individual friendships one-on-one with people, or like pretty early on, but like relationships and getting to know people and all those kind of little things that you just do as you're growing up. um, I think I've kind of looked back and gone, oh, okay, maybe I didn't quite understand what was going on there, or uh, kind of had to learn that later on in some ways, whereas I think some people who had been in school probably didn't have that experience at like 15, 16, 17 of going, oh, I don't feel a bit uncomfortable here. What's going on? That might not have been the case.
I was going to say, if it
So
makes you feel any better at the age of 35, I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
possibly, if I'm hearing a little bit, maybe situational awareness and observing group dynamics, maybe.
Yeah, those kind of little things that just you might pick up a bit naturally. And yeah, not everyone does feel comfortable with those settings, and a lot of it also comes down to personality. And I might have felt exactly the same if I was in a school, but I don't know. But yeah, it's just those little things that I kind of look back and think, I wonder if the homeschooling had some sort of an impact on that. Um, and they're not things that I look back on and go, oh, they're a bad thing. And because a lot of my homeschooling I look back on and go, oh, that's made me who I am today, and it's taken me where I am today, and I'm quite glad about that. So I think it's been really good in some ways, but yeah, it's not always an easy path.
How's your relationship with your siblings? The last lady that we interviewed, who had been homeschooled, had 3 siblings, and she said that her siblings were like her best friends. So I was wondering how your relationship was with your siblings.
Yeah, we get along really well. I think growing up, there's times where we kind of annoyed each other and got into each other's nerves, and but I think that's like any bunch of siblings, especially when you're all in close proximity to each other all the time. Um, but no, I get along with them all really well, and they're all back in New Zealand, so I don't get to see them too often. But we all still keep in touch, and we call quite regularly and try and get out to visit them kind of as often as we can, which is at the moment kind of every few years, every 3 or 4 years we manage to make it back. So it's always really nice to see them.
Okay, so following, I mean, we've tangented away from the path of the questions we had anyway, but it does relate to the exams one. Um, did you go into further education, and if so, how did you go into it?
Yeah, so for the journalism, I knew if I wanted to get into that, I had to have a qualification for it. I was quite lucky that there was a polytech about half an hour down the road that had quite a strong journalism course. So I was kind of working towards that, and so I had to do NCA level 2. It's kind of the entry requirements for that. I'm not quite sure how that would translate to A levels, but yeah, so I did the study and then got into there, and then did a 1-year diploma in journalism, and then went back again and did a year a certificate in photography. And then after that, got a job at the local newspaper, and then went from there.
The Taranaki Times?
Taranaki Daily News. Yeah.
Did you have to reverse engineer it at all, like to work out what you needed to do, or was it a case that you already had the qualifications to get the onto the diploma? And
No, it was very much kind of working backwards from wanting to be in journalism, so knowing I wanted to do the journalism course, so knowing I needed the NCA, so knowing that like I had to do these subjects to then go onto that. So that's where it was really helpful knowing what I wanted to do from 14 or 15, because then you could kind of adjust the trajectory according to that.
did you do that at the same age you would expect to do? I guess, were you, being not bound by the school age constraints, were you able to get into it earlier, or?
Yeah, I think probably got into it a little bit earlier. So I was 17 when I started the journalism course. So I was probably the youngest on the course.
So is that degree level then?
Diploma, so next one down. So yeah,
Because you said polytech. Is that like a college or a university?
I'm not quite sure how it fits into the UK system, but I think it's kind of like a
Google.
I don't know. It kind of mostly did like apprenticeships and things like that, kind of more vocational qualifications, rather than being like a proper uni. Yeah, so it was kind of it was a level 5 qualification, but I don't know how that translates across to or the UK system. But yeah, so it wasn't a full university.
So we did have them. I've just looked it up because I didn't want to quote this wrong, but we did have polytechnics in the UK for a long, long time, and they were merged into the university system in '92 due to the Further and Higher Education Act. But yes, we did have them, and they were quite similar.
Yeah, I'm sure I've heard my mum talk about polytechnics.
Yeah, and it was following A levels or for a further education thing. It was again very much vocational, like you said, and yeah, and then they all were merged into the university system.
Mm. Yeah, so it definitely worked quite well for me. I'm not sure how I would have found going straight into a full university degree, going from being homeschooled straight into that. So I think the more practical, hands-on element of it was quite well suited to me.
So slight tangent here again in terms of the questioning, but was there? You've already mentioned an element of the socialization side of things that you felt like you may have missed out on if you'd gone to school and actually noticed things probably about yourself more that you thought, would it have helped if I'd been more in group environments earlier on? But was there anything else you felt like you missed out on by being home educated?
I don't think so. I think because we did have that flexibility to be able to tailor things to what we were interested in, I think we kind of were able to pick and choose the subjects a little bit, or if we were interested in something, mum and dad could kind of say, "Oh, great, here you go. Here's a project related to that," or go and dig into it more, and that can kind of work as your studies. So I think we could kind of make the most of that flexibility. But I think it does also come back to that thing of I'm not really quite sure what I missed out on because I've got no benchmark to compare it to. I kind of just knew what I had, and then that was it for me.
Did you never hear? You said you had some mates at the school. Did you never hear them talk about school and be like, "Oh man, I wish I could have done that"?
No, I think because I kind of like the sports side of thing, I was still quite involved in that. Um, Maybe some of the school trips, I guess, but they would have probably gone different ones. But then we would have done different things there. It went along to a couple of the school balls because I got invited along by friends, kind of thing. So I still got a little bit involved in some of those kind of things.
What were the best and worst bits of home education?
Best and the worst bits. Um, so I think, yeah, the flexibility was definitely one of the perks. Um, and I think we could also really dig into the topics that we might not have got to study. So we got to learn quite a lot about New Zealand's history, and to the point where I've talked about New Zealand's history with friends, and I've gone, "Oh, I didn't realise that happened," or that was kind of part of the story, or things like that. So um, I think because we spent a lot of time in different museums, or I think Dad particularly was really fascinated by different bits of the history and would teach us about it, then we had quite a well-rounded education there, or even things like the slave trade in the US and different things like that. We learned quite a lot about that, and I think other people might not know as much about those kind of things or those kind of topics. Um, and then also we could also take holidays during the term time as well, so that was always a nice little perk. We went to Rainbow's End once, which was New Zealand's big kind of theme park, and we were wondering what all the little big lines were for because there was no one around, and we were just walking straight through them when we didn't realise that people actually had to queue up for those kind of things. So that's a nice little perk as well.
Just before we get into the worst bits, you've mentioned that you had 7 siblings?
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 siblings. How did that work from a home education perspective? Like, was there anything your parents had to do to make sure that you were all given the same opportunities? Is that I'm assuming there's quite a big age range.
There is quite a bit. So uh, eldest now is 36. Yeah, my older sister's 36 and or 37, and my younger sister's 19 or 20. So there's a bit of a range there. So it was quite hard, I think, to try and kind of make sure that we were all covered and all learning different things or different levels at the same time. Um, so yeah, it was quite a lot of work for Mum, especially trying to like juggle all of that. I think it also put a lot of work for my older sisters because they were that little bit older. They then had to do quite a lot of work to help out the younger ones. So I think they put on a lot of time trying to teach them as well while also doing their own studies. So I think that could have been quite a bit for them at different points, trying to juggle all of that.
Did you ever have to help out with teaching the younger ones?
Yeah, at different points, you'd kind of, I would be like, "Oh, can you help so and so with their maths or with their English or things?" That you just kind of go and give them a hand and try and walk them through it and try and teach them.
And you didn't mind doing that?
No, it's just kind of a normal part of it. Um, yeah, just kind of what was expected, so you just kind of got on with it.
That's great. I asked because we've had the question, which we might have done in our Q&A, which was very much about people that have concerns when it comes to having, more than one, is how do you make sure that there is the opportunity for each of them to do different things, and if they're entirely different interests, making sure that you've got time to sort of help all of those. And I hadn't really considered the fact that the older one, and our little boy does it all the time. He's always helping his little sister. But I guess I hadn't really considered it in the form of like actual education
Hmm.
or the home education side of things. It's not just your parents that can be the facilitators of that.
Yeah. I think it can definitely go both ways. I think it can be really helpful and really good because you're learning a lot of skills as well if you're teaching somebody else. Being able to teach someone's a really good skill to be able to have. But then also, there's a lot of pressure that can come with that as well. And when you're already trying to do your own schoolwork and do your own jobs and get your own stuff done, and you're also having to help your little sister or little brother out at the same time. That can also add in a lot of pressure as well. So I think they had to work quite hard at the same time. So I think it's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword in some ways.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about it in relation to my own family, and I love my little sisters, but if I'd had to teach one of them much, I might have gone mad. I gave her a driving lesson once, and we got out of the driveway and then straight back into the driveway, and that was as far as we got because it just wasn't going to work.
Mm.
Me teaching that.
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but also my little siblings are great.
So what was the worst bits then?
I think the worst bits was the again, the socialization was tricky, and yeah, I think that was kind of the main one I could think of the biggest downside. There wasn't too many other things that I could look back on and think, oh, that's a bad bit for it. But I think overall it was pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, we'd spoken about that a little bit, and that was again just to reflect on it. That was more when you were remote rather than when you were in Taranaki.
Yeah, yeah.
More around you.
But I think also even when we were in Taranaki, because we were kind of mostly at home during the day, and then we'd be kind of out in the afternoons and evenings. I think there's still a lot of time when you're just kind of at home by yourself, which if you're not someone who likes being at home by yourself all the time, could be quite tricky. And so my younger siblings actually, we all started off homeschooled all the way through, and then they eventually ended up going to high school because they're like, no, actually, we want to be out and about. We think that suits us better actually being in school, and that worked quite well for them going and do that.
So how many of your siblings decided to go to school?
I think it was all five, the younger ones. So me and my two older sisters were homeschooled the whole way through, and then the five younger ones were homeschooled up until it varied when they ended up going, but between kind of 13 and 15 and 16 kind of thing. So kind of those last few years they were at high school.
I suppose it's those teenage years when you do have that craving to be with other teenagers.
Yeah, yeah.
Which to me sounds terrible.
I mean, well, yeah, I don't want to be with teenagers now, but when you are one,
I'm only kidding. I'm
Yeah, and I think they also had made friends who went to high school or kind of knew people who were going there, and kind of like, I actually know it'd be quite nice to go to that, or just even the teaching style of being in a classroom. I think definitely for my younger brother, he preferred that to just doing it by himself. He liked having everyone else around him, all kind of getting on and doing the same task. So that just kind of suited his personality better, whereas my personality kind of suited doing it at home.
it's so interesting. Like everyone is so different and has different, preferences and ways of learning.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of trying to work out what's best for each person or each child, which isn't always a one size fits all, whether that is school or whether that's home ed.
I wonder, how did your parents take it when they decided to go to school?
I think because we had the rest of us, I think they just kind of got on with it. I wasn't really too involved in the discussions. I think at that stage I was kind of getting ready to do my exams, or I was kind of in that whole kind of bubble, so I can't really remember too much of what the conversations were at the time.
Next question we have for you is: do you feel like you or any of your siblings, I guess, who've also been home educated, have ever been treated differently by anybody because of the way that
I don't think so, or I can't think of any explicit examples where that might have happened. There's always kind of been the question, or kind of a bit of surprise, maybe when people say, "Oh, you're homeschooled," or things like that. But yeah, I can't remember being treated any differently because of it.
But you socialise so well. How could you possibly?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To have had those comments of like, "Oh, didn't even know you were homeschooled," or "You don't seem homeschooled." Thanks.
it's funny the preconceptions that society has, especially in the UK, about homeschooling. When I was a kid, it was always said that homeschool kids were the weird ones, but actually reflecting on it, Most of the ones in school were weird ones as well.
Yeah, I think kids are just weird sometimes, and it goes both ways.
Yeah, I did a post about it the other day where I was like, school doesn't make you not weird. Like, I know plenty of weird people from school, and I am one of them. It's okay to be weird as well. Like, it's not even a
Mm,
yeah.
Oh, that's really nice to hear, though. Like, other than the general shock,
mm,
and I think we don't tend to ask people generally. So we probably pass many people in life who have been homeschooled that we just, you never know. It's not like you ask everybody that you engage with in
Yeah.
when you go to shops or the gym or wherever you head to. Oh, hey, you homeschool? Oh, actually, you've started asking a lot of people, but
No. Well, because that's only because I started asking everybody how they felt about school. Like, did they like school or not? But actually, in all of the people that I asked if they liked school or not, nobody ever went, "Oh, well, I didn't actually go. I was homeschooled." But when we did go into the computer shop the other day to buy a computer, and it said something about doing the podcast about home education, and the manager there was like, "Oh yeah, I was homeschooled." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Do you want to do an interview?"
yeah, we are around. We do pop up now and again. But also, same with kind of my career. It's never really come up. Once I kind of had the journalism qualification and started working, then I don't think I even have it on my CV or anything like that. It's not really a thing. I kind of people know I can do what I can do, and then that's all that they're really concerned about.
Before we get on to the last couple of questions, because you work remotely now, don't you?
Hmm.
Do you feel like it's kind of helped you to be able to work remotely?
Yeah, definitely that ability to kind of get my head down and just get on with things. My wife Millie has always kind of been quite surprised at how I can just be in a noisy room or be in a cafe or anything like that, and I do have this ability to just tune it out and get on with what I need to do. I think that is probably a bit of a product of having 7 noisy siblings who are doing all sorts of things while I'm trying to study. So yeah, I think that is a bit of a skill.
that's amazing. I really struggle if I'm generally in meetings nearly all day at work, but if I have to sit down and I'm typing notes up or whatever it is, I have to put headphones on with music to block out everything else. Like I really struggle otherwise.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, what's that? What's that noise? I should go and see what's going on. What's oh, there's somebody at the door. No, there's nobody at the door. I'm just finding a reason to go away from it. If I put headphones on and music on,
Yeah, I do also have a bit of a thing where if I'm working at home too much, I do feel like I need to get out and need to see people, and I kind of can't do too many days. But I think there's probably a normality in that as well. Like, I can't spend too long by myself, otherwise I'll go a little bit crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, I even like just going to the shop and back. Yeah, really simple thing. Just because otherwise, I'm like, what have I done today? I have moved between the bedroom and the kitchen and the office, and then back to the kitchen, and so yeah, I know exactly that
That's
feeling.
very easy to do.
So, if you choose to have children, would you consider home education for them?
We've considered it, but I think at this stage we've decided that we'd go down the school route, um, just because it's such a big commitment, and especially a big time commitment. Um, if we kind of decide to go down that route, um, it takes a lot. I'd take my hat off to mum and dad because I don't really know how they did it, trying to do it with all of us, and yeah, and also my older siblings. Like, it was definitely a lot of teamwork to try and get it all done and get us all taught. And I can't really imagine doing that even with one or two. The amount of work that goes into kind of finding the curriculum and making the lessons, and like you say, making sure everyone's learning at the right level, and all the thought that goes into that, alongside all the parenting stuff that you've got to kind of do as well. So I don't think it would kind of work for us doing that. So I think we'd kind of could possibly be a bit more open to it as an option, kind of having that experience of being homeschooled myself. I think kind of having that awareness of what it involves means that if school wasn't working, or if we couldn't find the right school or a good school, then it would definitely be on the radar. Whereas for some people, I know that they just wouldn't consider it at all. But yeah, that'd probably be a decision that we made kind of further down the road, and would at this stage probably lean the other way.
Fair enough. Have you, so your homeschooling was very lesson based and sort of like curriculum based. Have you heard of unschooling?
Yeah, I haven't really had too much experience with it, but I have heard of it.
Because we don't have a curriculum. We,
We've made our own
well,
one.
yeah, we made our own curriculum. but yeah, so we don't have to, we haven't had to do that kind of sit and find a curriculum and plan all the lessons and stuff. And
Mm,
I think when you kind of let that stuff go, it does become a lot more easier and even more freeing than homeschooling in a more thingy way than school.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, traditional schooling.
I think it works differently for different people, though. I think Davo touched on it earlier that actually, everybody does learn in a different way. So some people at school, even when I was at school, some people loved going to the library and studying and
Mm,
spending their time reading through books, and some people hated that bit. Some people loved exams. I liked exams. I hated coursework. I liked the pressure of the exam and the fact that it was done within like a couple of hours and you could go away and forget everything that you'd just learned almost immediately. But coursework,
No, you make me feel sick.
yeah, I think it does definitely. It works differently for different people. It kind of, again, it's the personality thing of we're all a little bit different.
Did you like doing the exams?
I don't know if I'd say I enjoyed them. Um, I think I didn't mind them too much. Um, and I think I did like the thing of just go and do it, get out there. That probably worked quite well for me. But I think I did prefer the other stuff more.
Yeah, coursework. I like a project and like I love the way I always express with my hands that people can't see because this is a podcast.
before we get on to the last question, I just want to open up for you actually. So we've obviously had all the questions we've asked you up until now. Is there anything else that you think's worth mentioning, worth talking about, or that you'd like to talk about from your homeschool experience that we haven't touched upon?
No, I don't think so. I think we've kind of covered everything that I was kind of thinking about leading up to this. Yeah, I think the questions were pretty broad and covered my kind of experience of it. So no, I don't think so.
So that just leaves our last question that we ask everybody, and that is, do you have any tips or advice that you'd like to share with anybody who is new to or thinking about or doing home education right now?
Yeah, I think kind of doing what you guys are doing now, and what I guess anyone listening to the podcast is doing, is talk to people who've been homeschooled or are homeschooling, find out what their experience is, and yeah, really look into it from that point of view of finding out how it works for different people. Homeschoolers are usually pretty happy to chat about how they do things and wanting to share what works for them, or and also kind of once you get into those networks, there's you usually find that there's just quite a few more people out there doing it than you might expect. And so once you find a few people doing it, they'll kind of know other people who know other people, and hopefully kind of opens up those networks a little bit. And you can kind of find out a little bit more about it. And yeah, I think it does take a lot of work, but I think ultimately it does. It's that old cliche of you get out of it what you put into it. So it can be quite rewarding. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for doing the interview.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Been it's been a pleasure to hear all about your experiences.
Yeah, it's been really good. And thank you for answering all the questions and listening to us ramble a little bit and dealing with my tangents and
And our technical problems.
and and technical problems. For anybody listening, I might have been missing for the first 15 minutes or so of this while I was having to change a lot of equipment. Probably didn't notice, but let's go with that.
There were no tangents for the first 15 minutes. What's going on?
I know. Sorry, sorry, team.
Oh,
Uh, as always, thank you very much for listening. If you have a minute and you've enjoyed the show, please drop us a rating in whatever your favorite podcast platform is. You can find us on all the social medias. And if you'd like to send us in any questions that you might have for Dave or ourselves,
use the email or don't use the Spotify thing because we can't reply to it.
They send us a text at the top of the Spotify link. We can read those and reply to them when we do a podcast, but we cannot reply to them directly.
And if you haven't already, go and check out the new Patreon.
Woo!
Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.